Hey, it's Boyd from AIRBOYD. I'm just recently back from Benton, Arkansas, where I went to the Aviation Creator Content Awards, first annual, set up by Dan Greider and hosted by Jerry Clemens of Clemens Insurance. Uh, Basically a fun flying weekend. Got to meet a bunch of other YouTubers, go flying. You've seen some of the other videos on the channel already. We've got some more coming up. But one of the big things we had, and one of the discussions that I wanted to have is 360 a viable option for shooting aircraft footage, and is it something that you want to use on your airplane? Now, granted, I don't own an airplane. I was lucky enough to fly in other people's aircraft, and for the most part, it's been a GoPro world. GoPro Max and the Insta360 One R are two very current competitors. There's plenty of videos you can see on both of them. I went out and purchased my own Insta360. I wanted to see how it was going to work, and I took it with me. Here's the widescreen module, and you can see they're not particularly large. That's my thumb there. And the 360 module just comes out, snaps on here just like that. You've seen that, so you get your forward view, rear view, and your screen. And then the battery snaps on the bottom. Really tough finding batteries right now. I try to find a replacement battery for this, and there's none available for almost another month. Now, there's one big thing, and I'll try and show a close-up later, is there's a pretty good gap where the camera goes on the battery. It's pretty close to 2 millimeters in this one. I've seen as high as 1 to 3 mentioned online. Insta360 says that they're not waterproof until it's in this frame here. When you put it in the frame, it does get a little tighter, but I still have a significant gap on the bottom. I did not feel comfortable using this outside of water at all. It's not to say that I was planning on getting it wet, but when you're flying through clouds, anywhere around convective activity, even down in Florida in the summer, you're going to end up flying through rain showers or something, and it's something that you definitely don't want to get wet and have a short circuit. They spend a lot of time in their manual talk about making sure it's dried out before using it again. And even include 2 silica gel desiccants, and recommend that you put your lenses in a bag with these before taking them into humid areas so that they won't fog up. Seems a little odd, but I didn't have any trouble with not using it, although it was relatively dry in Kansas. So we're not going to focus too much on aircraft mounts today. I'm going to talk about the camera itself and the software. When I say the camera, it's not just Insta360. There's plenty of other 360 cameras out here. For example, here's a clip that I took of the Blue Angels solo down at their spring training 2 years ago with my old 360 camera. And you can see the resolution just doesn't keep up. But it is possible to get a great behind you view while you're looking forward and not miss the action. And that's really where 360 comes into itself here. It's for lack of a better view, it's a sort of a 4-way camera, even though it's infinite views. Most of the reframing now is done into 180, which is how people still prefer to watch it. We don't have a lot of VR headsets out there, and you really don't see people using their phones to track around and look around them a great deal. Even though Google Cardboard works and you can sit there and frame it on your face, it's just not very popular. So we're down to reframing. I took the camera out, put it on a Stearman, put it on a carbon cub, and I even took it in a Lockheed 21. All for different shots. The mounts, of course, I can spend a lot of time on. I use a suction mount both on the Stearman and in the Lockheed 21 to put on the glass. If it was my aircraft, I would, of course, spend more time getting just a standard GoPro mount, put it somewhere. What you find as you get into a lot of the older aircraft, and especially if you're being invited to fly in someone's, is that, Cubs, Stearmans don't have a lot of surface area to put them on. It's just the rigid poles. The rest of the fabric's no good. We thought about sticking it on the small glass windshield of the Stearman, but of course, Austin reminded me that there's quite a bit of oil on it that might not stick. So we ended up using the mirror that's on the wing. It's a little off-center, and that shows in the videos, as you can see. Now, where it really shines is what I like to think of as the low and slow planes. It really seems to work well for Cubs, back mountain flying, bush flying, open cockpit flying. The light's much better outside in the Stearman, of course, direct sunlight. It's a little darker when you get inside Corey's Cub, and of course that's just the way it is with the shielding of the glass. But what you can definitely see, and as I show you in the app as we go along here, is that Corey's plane just looks amazing inside from 360, and the ability to grab whatever angle you want. If it's a passenger view, it's a flying view, something even behind you, because there's quite a lot of glass behind Corey's head that you can see out of. It's just something that you're able to choose the shots from. So we'll go into the app now and take a look through the app because that's clearly where the power of the Insta360 is, and the GoPro Max, any other 360 cameras that are coming out. So a big part of the Insta360, of course, is their app. The app on the phone is a lot more featured than the app is on the computer. Computer version basically allows you to do very simple reframing, cuts, things of that nature. It is good if you're just going to export it straight to something else, but that's about all it's good for. They do, however, have an Adobe Premiere plugin. I just happen to work in Final Cut Pro most of the time, so it doesn't work for me, which pretty much leaves the phone. There's quite a lot going on in here. Of course, you can see everybody else's uploads. One of the things I do like is they teach you how to do creative tricks, everyday tricks, sport tricks, 360 trips. And they also have what's called a shot lab. So if you see something in a shot that you like, you can go learn how to do it. They talk you through it, and then it says, hey, if you'd like to use this, let's use your clip now. One of the downsides to this is it does take a while and often requires that you actually upload your video to their website, to the cloud. And it's difficult to set that to be private all the time, so you need to be careful how you're using that. So back to the discussion of 360 on an aircraft. So let's go take a look here at this shot. I think this one here is in the back of the beach jet. Yep, so let's go ahead and we'll pop right back out of that one. Let's take a look at the Stearman biplane that I got to fly with Austin Clemens. As you can see, it's basically sat there in the frame looking back. There's a forward camera and a backwards camera, so you've got an instant shot of backwards or forwards. You can go ahead, head right through it to go ahead and do multi-view. I don't know why I said that. So in the basing app, you can change the aspect ratio. The standard, of course, is, what you would look at as being sort of an Instagram view, 9:16, 1:1, 16:9, and then 2.35:1, which is obviously the widest. And of course, you can still sit here and spin and look up and look down, and it's a pretty good 360 camera. It's outside right now because it's on the biplane, so it's obviously pretty good. Now, the secret here is getting these into something called stories. Once it's in stories, you can then reframe the video in any direction you want. Go ahead, break the clips up into a couple of pieces. I usually choose 2-minute pieces if it's a pretty long video, 1 minute if it's shorter, which allows me a number of ways of going through and editing. Now, this is one of the other things you'll find with the app is it can take a while to load like it just did now. There's a lot of data in here. This file, when I took it off the camera, was I think about just 7.5 gigabytes. One of the other drawbacks to using the software on the phone is you do have to get it off the camera, and that can take quite a while even over Wi-Fi. It is not a huge issue if you're doing a lot of small shots, but if you're going to do a lot of filming, long time, long flight, then you're going to have issues getting this onto your phone to work with. But once it's on the phone, like I said, you could break it down. Split screen, forward view, out direction, in direction, and you can see I can just go ahead and do that. So there's the in camera, the out camera. You can also change how that splits. Go around. There is a forward-looking view out the flight. So let's say we wanted to go ahead and do a free capture. We'll go ahead and set this up here in free capture. It's going to go ahead and pop open into a new window. There's my free capture. You can go ahead and set it to tiny planet, wide, ultra wide, and then work with it, changing the spot, whatever you want. Now, this is where I think that this probably excels, and it does it for, I'm going to say, a large variety of the aircraft, but if you're doing something with light aircraft like Cubs, Stearman, a lot of outside stuff, backcountry stuff, short field landings, things that look really interesting because they're slow, I think this is where a 360 camera definitely works out. Now, the other great thing, of course, is you can get different shots. You don't have to have 2 or 3 cameras. There's the left, there's the right. You can take a good look at the engine. You can see the nose art. Take a quick look down at the runway. And in flight, you're used to looking around quite a bit. So having this option to you is really a good idea. You're used to, yeah, we'll do this one again. You're used to looking around in flight, so being able to see is fine. Now, the 360 technology really started coming out 4 years ago, 5 years ago. My older camera doesn't really hold a Now, the technology really started sort of coming out 4 or 5 years ago, and It's certainly much better today. But what didn't catch on was we're not all wearing VR headsets. People don't like to really move the mouse around when they're looking at it. So reframing is really where it's at. And that is going to really drive how this goes forward in the future. Now, there are certain planes, and this is Corey's Carbon Cub. We went out and did some stall flying, and you can see there's Corey in the cockpit there. So we'll go ahead and we'll do a free capture of this. We'll pop it up there. And what I really like about it is, in fact, let's just go back. We'll change it back to 1:1 because, we'll go back and change it to... Okay, so here's a great example. So let's say you have a Carbon Cub like Corey, and wouldn't that be great? Go ahead, change it back to its standard aspect ratio of 9:16, just for this demo here. Makes it a little easier to see on the screen when I show you the next stop. We'll go into free capture, and you can see instantly, you get to see Corey. You can see out of his glass roof. There's the front, side. I mean, there's basically everything you could want. Now, we went with the option of mounting it inside on this one, and there's not a lot of places for to put it. It's basically 2 struts. Now, you could put it underneath. Of course, you just have to worry about whether or not oil from the engine or something else will make that surface slick. And there's a number of ways of doing it. So, if you pull it out too far where it looks like this, you get that tiny planet look, which is fine for the odd clip here and there. But, the ability to pick and choose your clips as you're going through and seeing it really works out well. So I think if you've got something like this, a stall aircraft, 172, I mean, you can even use it on a Piper, but you're basically slow is where the picture is here. And when you've got something like a stall plane like this, it's going slow, usually low. You're looking at scenery, and that's what you want to see. Now, I did use it to try and capture some of the stall landings. I haven't edited any of those yet. So I'll go ahead and pick out a couple of those in the Cub here. So standing out here, I mounted it down on the field, and you can see I'm doing this in real time. You can actually set that shot up, get some great shots. There's still the ability to zoom in and zoom out as you go ahead and edit it later on. Set right there on the cone that set up the grass strip. And of course, it gives you a lot of different shot options. So I think there's probably a place in just about everybody's toolbox who films their own aviation in their own aircraft for a 360 camera, just for the fact that you've got shots in every different direction and you're not likely to miss anything. This was not a camera that I could say I definitely wanted to keep. To me, it feels just a bit fiddly. I did not end up taking it apart and putting it in the wide angle the whole time I was out there. And it really starts, for me, at least the way I do my filming go out is if I'm getting an airplane ride or getting to do something like this, I'm going to be using probably a 2-camera shot anyway. This is nice because it's such a multi-camera view. But then, any kind of hero view, ultra wide in one direction or the other. You'll find a lot of flight training programs. They'll put a mount up on the dashboard or coaming area that face out, so you get the flying on the outside, so you can see what was going on, and then mount another one upside down behind you and the instructor, so you can go back and do a thorough debrief of what was wrong. I think that setup works really well for that, and you could end up using something like this, putting it in front of the instructor, so you've got forward and backward at the same time. You could look at this as being sort of a jump seat view in a commercial aircraft. Of course, we can't do that in the United States. Just Planes gets some wonderful footage from all the airlines around the world. We'd love to be able to take something like this and do it. It's just not possible. One of the other big complaints I had about the actual physical 360 camera here is that it's got a very tiny hole. If you do snap it open and you want to swap out a chip or something like that, I barely have room to get my thumbnail in here. It almost nearly has to come out of the camera to do this. On the other hand, you are able to get to the USB cable in here. So if you want to do long time filming, you might be able to put extra power in. As long as you route the wire down the side, you'll get in the stitching line and it'll be completely hidden. So I think that if you're doing low and slow flight training, things where you've got different angles to look at, that the 360 for aviation makes a fantastic idea. Is it better than having 2 cameras? It's hard to tell. Setting something up on the wing, setting something up in the cockpit, and having the 2 shot is obviously be more powerful, but it's not necessarily for everybody. So if you're looking for 1 shot, just the 360 version is probably all you really need. Of course, they price it so that you're going to end up basically getting the wide angle as well. It's just something I did not use all weekend in 3 days of filming aircraft rides and anything else. I was able to go and stick this into cockpits, up close to engine nacelles, into big radials. It's areas you'd go with a selfie stick or something that just do amazing views that you wouldn't normally get.